Walk This Way is an exhibit now on display at the Hunter Museum of American Art in downtown Chattanooga. It features footwear from the Stuart Weitzman collection of historic shoes organized by the New York Historical. On Thursday, starting at 6 p.m., Chery Jordan and the Runway Rebels will present a fashion show at the Hunter that's all about the shoes. Walk This Way through fashion. Chery, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Tell us more about Stuart Weitzman.
Stuart Weitzman is a prolific designer. He started out as an artist and he became someone to be reckoned with in the shoe industry. And he collected over 100 years, some of it personal, some that he had invented himself, but quite a bit of it that he just collected because he was fascinated with shoes. And from practical to just something to come between your feet and the earth, he decided to make like things for the soul. So we at the Hunter Museum decided to get that exhibit, which is like over 100 pairs of shoes, spanning the beginning to suffragettes movement, where women, basically it's women's shoes, where women had very stacked practical shoes. Practical, it wasn't any fashion. And he explored lace and leather and silks and things like that. He just made a great evolution of shoes. So what I'm doing within the exhibit is he did from 1899 to 1960, and I'm doing from 1960 forward. You can have an idea of the color, the whimsy, the functionality or lack thereof, and what people find collectible, the feminism, the cultural phenomenon, because people shop with emotion now. Women, they're building shoes for all sizes. Usually it started out with a heel, and then certain women couldn't wear a heel. It'll break, and they're making shoes sturdier, practical. Designers are now coming in on it. There are shoes that are like $3,000, and there's some that are like $6. So everybody can get, and then there are famously knockoffs. So everybody can aspire to have something from Sex in the City that cost her rent.
Or part of her rent.
Yes, and all of that. The trends that come out of that. We address that, and I'm doing the clothing as well to flatter those shoes, whether it's color or, first of all, within the exhibit, he designed the Billy Porter kinky boots, the red ones. Those are his design, and that's the first thing you see when you walk into the museum. So I'm doing a kind of kinky, funky tribute to that, and then the next area would be the suffragettes. There's a big picture on the wall of a couple dancing, Charleston, so you can get that era. And then the suffragettes, the women looking for work with their long dresses and the very practical, like 1-inch heel. And after that is Girls' Night Out, which you find all funky, peep toe, strappy, all the iterations coming into the 21st century. And it's just awesome because I was fascinated by the ballerina section because through the 40s and 50s, or even earlier, women got married in something similar to a ballet shoe. Soft and cushioned and royalty, looking very royal. So it's really interesting to see.
And talk more about that dividing line in 1960 with the feminism that would emerge later in the 1960s and through the 1970s and beyond.
I think women owned their femininity at that time. So it was a movement that was happening, and women were strong in their power suits, they were shoulder pads, they were the sexy secretary, and then they became the girl bosses. And women who owned things, and they had a certain, even in the news, especially the news anchors, they had a certain image to live up to. You couldn't wear makeup, you had to have short hair to be with the boys' club, and so forth. And women were doing the work and not getting paid. So it was part of a whole movement. Some women own their sexuality by wearing sexy heels. They didn't care because they just presented themselves as who they are. And for those who felt that they had to maybe compromise, they would be, also there was the practical, just like there was no makeup. It all worked together. It was a very interesting time from the 60s, the 70s. Of course, there was civil unrest and so forth, so there was a look for that as well. And the world, I think, began to see definite images of what that looks like. Women wearing cargo pants, and then their kind of homogenized look with MTV and what the world was projecting. Chunky boots was fashionable. It was feminine as well as masculine. And the lines blurred a little bit. And then they made those boots with color and flowers, and it became feminine. And then there was a heel for people. So the evolution and the trend was visible for everybody to see, and you had people making definitive choices with their look and what represented the shoe that represented them and their look. So I thought it was a really interesting time because, like, right now there's social media, but back then it was MTV, which was global. I've been all over the world, and everybody had a thing, a trend, a look, a color. It became fashion. It just all became fashion. Wherever you went, in Germany, to Sweden, to Brazil, everybody had their own sexy sandal. It was sunny. They made the most. The Brazilians made the most. The Latinas had the heel. So everywhere you went, there was a specific femininity of a shoe. So from my perspective, I traveled with an artist through Germany, and the men were more colorful than women. The women were kind of basic and wore gray. Men wore red pants. That was a phenomenon. I thought it was only in the black community men wore color. But in Germany, men wore red socks. The men were brighter than the women. And I found that really interesting. The women wore gray, kind of on the dowdy side, but their clothes, you can tell, were expensive and so forth. So there's that big divide, and then it still stays the same because when you went to Japan, people looked boring, but then they had definite looks, and the height of the shoe was incorporated in shorter pants. So you have this whole perspective of what their take looked like and what that translated to. So Stuart Weitzman, he addressed all of the above. Within the collection, he just had everything because he was a visionary that addressed all of that, all the things women needed. Femininity, brunch fancy sneakers, clogs, Crocs, designer label. So all of it was included.
And then let's bring it back around to what will be on display on Thursday.
What I'm going to be doing, the art comes first, of course. Everything at the museum comes first. Because what I do is, the museum has an exhibit, and I do the fashion version, which I am thrilled to do all the time because it's so much fun. This one is close to me because I love shoes. Girls love shoes. So as a collector, I decided to have all these beautiful pieces and just imagine the fashion that went with that. Like we've got something that looks like Peter Max, and we have psychedelic, and we've got like lots of jeweled, and there's a spiral with butterfly accents and the color, and so on. So there's going to be that. I decided to go extreme because I felt that for a fashion show, we're going to go hard or go home. So being that these shoes are existing, I decided to incorporate that into the show and let that be the basis of the show.
And for people who want more information about the exhibit and about the fashion show, they can go online to huntermuseum.org. And for people who want to learn more about you and all that you do as a creative, Chery, where can they go online?
Thank you. My Instagram is chic, Chery J, ChicCheryJ. And I do vintage pop-ups. My group are the Runway Rebels that I'm using, who are very popular right now. And I sell clothing, and you can get some things from the show if you Instagram me or message me.
All right. Chery, thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. It's my pleasure.